Katie Morrison sat alone at the empty table marked with Earth's symbol. The huge room around her buzzed with noise as hundreds of alien beings talked and clicked and whistled to each other. She could feel their eyes on her. Some curious, some angry, most just wanting her gone. The Galactic Council chamber was built to impress. Tall marble columns reached up to a ceiling painted with stars from 1,000 worlds. The floor was polished so bright it looked like a mirror. In the center stood a platform where Council Speaker Zarthek waited with his forearms folded across his chest. Katie had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years. She had sat through countless meetings where aliens complained about humans. Today felt different. Today felt final. "The vote is complete," Zarthek announced. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. By a count of 847 to 3, humanity is expelled from the Galactic Alliance. A cheer went up from the crowd. Katie watched as beings with scales, fur, and crystal skin celebrated. The Veltar delegate jumped up and down on his 6 legs. The floating Nexari spun in happy circles, their bodies glowing bright blue. "The charges are clear," Zarthek continued. "Humanity has broken the Primitive Species Protection Act by helping lesser races develop faster than nature intended. They have claimed worlds in protected space without permission. They have refused to follow proper trade rules and have spread chaos wherever they go." Katie pulled out her phone and pressed a single button. The screen lit up with one word: Exodus. She spoke quietly into the device. "This is Ambassador Morrison. Execute Protocol 7. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Jack Carter sat on the bridge of the UHS Independence. The massive ship hung in space above New Terra, humanity's biggest colony outside Earth's solar system. When the message came through, Jack felt his stomach drop. "Sir?" asked Lieutenant Amy Davis from her station. "What are your orders?" Jack looked at the screen showing Katie's message. He had hoped this day would never come, but they had planned for it anyway. For 3 years, human leaders had worked in secret to prepare for this moment. "Send the signal to all human worlds and stations," Jack said. "Operation Exodus begins now. We're going home." Back in the council chamber, Zarthek was still talking. "Humanity's dangerous ideas have infected too many young races. Their reckless expansion threatens the peace we have maintained for 10,000 years. Their very presence brings disorder to our perfect galaxy." The crowd cheered again. Katie noticed that not all the aliens looked happy. A few sat quietly, looking worried. The ambassador from Kepler Minor had voted for humanity. So had representatives from 2 other small worlds that humans had helped in the past. Furthermore, Zarthek said, humanity will have 30 days to remove all their people, ships, and equipment from Alliance space. Any human found in our territory after that time will be arrested. Katie stood up slowly. The room went quiet as hundreds of alien eyes turned to her. She was just one human among thousands of aliens, but she held herself straight and proud. "Speaker, Zarthek," she said in a clear voice. "The United Earth government accepts your decision." This surprised them. They had expected her to argue or beg or threaten. Instead, Katie picked up her briefcase and walked toward the exit. "That's it?" called out the Veltar delegate. "No speech about how wrong we are? No threats?" Katie stopped at the door and turned back. "You've made your choice. Now you'll live with it." She left the chamber as the aliens buzzed with confusion behind her. Meanwhile, across human space, the evacuation had already begun. On the farming world of New Montana, Sam Rodriguez watched as huge ships landed in his wheat fields. 3 million colonists lived on New Montana. Getting them all off-world would take weeks, but they had practiced this drill many times. "Load the grain reserves first," Sam told his workers. "Then the livestock. The buildings can stay, but we take everything else." Similar scenes played out on dozens of human worlds. Families packed their most important belongings. Factories shut down and loaded their equipment onto cargo ships. Research stations copied their data and destroyed what they couldn't take. Dr. Lisa Chen worked frantically in her lab on Kepler 7 station. She and her team had been developing new technologies that could change the galaxy. Zero-point energy generators, machines that could turn any matter into any other matter. Computer systems that could think faster than any biological brain. Download everything, she told her assistant. Every formula, every test result, every theory. We're not leaving any of this behind for them to steal. The aliens had always treated human science as primitive and dangerous. They never bothered to study it closely. They had no idea what they were losing. Captain Ryan Murphy piloted his cargo ship Wanderer through the hyperspace lanes between stars. Behind him flew a convoy of civilian ships, families, merchants, and refugees all heading for the edge of human space. His communications system crackled with encrypted messages from other ship captains. Convoy 7 reporting. We're approaching the rally point. Copy that, 7. Proceed to coordinates Tango 47. What's our final destination, Captain? Asked his co-pilot. Ryan smiled. Somewhere the aliens will never find us. Back on Nexus Prime, Katie Morrison sat in her small apartment packing her few personal belongings. Her phone rang with calls from human worlds, asking for instructions. Each time she gave the same answer. Follow the plan. Trust the plan. She had one last task to complete. Katie opened her computer and began typing a final report for the Galactic Council. In it, she detailed every time humans had saved alien lives, stopped wars, cured diseases, and prevented disasters. Every time they had been blamed for causing chaos when they were actually preventing catastrophe. She wrote about the Zephyrian plague that humans had cured, the Altarian civil war that human diplomats had ended, the 6 dying species that humans had helped relocate to new worlds, all the problems humans had solved while the galaxy accused them of making trouble. Katie finished the report and sent it to Zarthek's office. She knew he wouldn't read it for months, maybe years. By then it would be too late. She looked out her window at the alien city below. Ships flew between tall spires under the light of 3 different colored suns. It was beautiful, but it had never felt like home. Katie picked up her suitcase and walked to the door. Tomorrow she would board the last human ship, leaving Alliance space. Behind her, she left an empty apartment and a galaxy that had no idea what it had just thrown away. The exodus had begun. 3 days after the vote, alien traders arrived at Celestial Port expecting to do business as usual. Instead, they found empty docking bays and silent corridors. Griktar, a wealthy merchant from the Veltar homeworld, walked through the massive trading station in shock. Just a week ago, this place had been buzzing with activity. Human traders had filled the halls, selling everything from rare metals to exotic foods. Now his footsteps echoed in the emptiness. "Where is everyone?" he asked his assistant. "The humans are gone, sir. All of them. They took their ships and left." Griktar rushed to the main computer terminal. The station was still running, but every storage bay was empty. Every shop was cleared out. Even the restaurants had been stripped of their equipment. "They took everything," he whispered. "How did they move so fast?" Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human colonies that had existed for generations vanished overnight. Research stations went dark. Mining operations shut down and disappeared. It was as if humanity had never existed at all. On the agricultural world of New Montana, Sam Rodriguez supervised the loading of the last transport ship. The colonists had worked for 3 straight days to evacuate everything of value. Grain silos were emptied. Livestock was herded onto cargo ships. Even the farming equipment was taken apart and packed away. "That's the last of the cattle," reported Maria Santos, one of his farm managers. "The ships are loaded to capacity." Sam looked back at the empty buildings they were leaving behind. The structures were solid and well built, but without the people and equipment that made them useful, they were just empty shells. "What about the locals?" Maria asked. "The Kepler natives who worked with us?" "They're welcome to come if they want," Sam said. "But most chose to stay. We gave them copies of all our farming techniques and enough seeds to keep their families fed for years." The transport ship lifted off, carrying the last humans away from New Montana. Below them, the native Keplers watched from the hills. They had learned much from the humans, but they were not ready to leave their homeworld behind. Dr. Lisa Chen stood in her laboratory on Kepler 7 station for the last time. The research facility had been humanity's most advanced science center, outside Earth. Here, human scientists had made discoveries that could have changed the galaxy. "Are all the data cores loaded?" she asked her team. "Yes, Doctor," replied her assistant, Dr. Mark Taylor. "Every experiment, every formula, every prototype design. We've also wiped all the computer systems so nothing useful is left behind." Lisa looked at the empty laboratory tables where they had built machines that could create matter from pure energy. In the next room sat the prototype of a computer that could solve problems faster than any alien technology. All of it was being moved to ships bound for unknown space. "Doctor," Mark said quietly, "the aliens don't even know what we've accomplished here. They think our science is primitive." "Let them keep thinking that," Lisa replied. "Someday they might realize what they lost, but by then we'll be far beyond their reach." The evacuation ships had been arriving for days, huge cargo vessels that could carry entire cities, passenger ships designed to hold millions of people, military escorts to protect the convoys. The aliens had no idea that humans possessed such a massive fleet. Captain Ryan Murphy guided his convoy through hyperspace toward the galactic rim. His ship, the Wanderer, led a group of 30 civilian vessels carrying families and their belongings. Behind them stretched more convoys, each heading for different rally points on the edge of known space. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a message from Admiral Carter." "Put it through." Jack Carter's voice filled the bridge. "All convoy leaders, this is Admiral Carter. Phase 1 is complete. All human civilians are clear of Alliance space. Phase 2 begins now. Proceed to your assigned coordinates and await further orders." Ryan checked his navigation computer. The coordinates led to a region of space that wasn't on any alien star chart, a place beyond the galaxy's edge where ancient stars burned cold and distant. "Set course for the dark zone," he told his pilot. "The dark zone, sir? That's empty space. Nothing there but cold and radiation." "That's what the aliens think," Ryan said with a smile. "They're wrong about a lot of things." Meanwhile, on various worlds throughout the galaxy, alien governments were starting to notice problems. Computer systems that had run perfectly for decades began showing errors. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for centuries started experiencing delays. On the planet Xerion, Administrator Velnara stared at her reports in confusion. The planetary food distribution system was failing. Shipments were arriving late or not at all. Storage facilities were running out of space because the automated sorting systems had stopped working properly. "When did these problems start?" she asked her staff. "3 days ago, Administrator, right after the humans left." "That's impossible. Humans had nothing to do with our food systems. They were just farmers who sold us grain." But as Velnara dug deeper into the records, she found something disturbing. Human technicians had been quietly maintaining and upgrading alien systems for years. They had been paid small amounts to fix problems and improve efficiency. The aliens had thought they were doing simple manual labor. They had been wrong. Dr. Elena Brooks was one of the few humans who chose to stay behind. She worked on a remote research station studying a dying species called the Marani. The small peaceful aliens were slowly going extinct from a genetic disease, and Elena was close to finding a cure. When the evacuation order came, she made a difficult choice. "I can't leave them," she told Admiral Carter over the communication link. "The Marani have maybe 6 months left. I'm the only one who can save them. Elena, you know what will happen when the aliens find out you stayed. They'll arrest you. Let them try. These people trusted us to help them. I won't abandon them now." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. "You'll be completely cut off. No support, no backup, no way home." "I understand." "Then may God watch over you, Doctor. You're the bravest person I know." As the last human ships disappeared into hyperspace, the galaxy began to feel the first effects of their absence. Systems that had worked perfectly for years started to fail. Technologies that aliens had taken for granted began breaking down. Trade that had flowed smoothly between worlds slowed to a crawl, but most aliens didn't notice yet. They were too busy celebrating humanity's departure to pay attention to the small problems beginning to appear. They thought they had removed a source of chaos from their orderly galaxy. They had no idea that they had actually removed the hidden foundation that held their civilization together. In the Galactic Council chambers, Speaker Zarthek received reports of minor technical problems from various worlds. He dismissed them as coincidence. These small issues will resolve themselves, he told his staff. Now that the humans are gone, our galaxy can return to proper order. But deep in space, beyond the reach of alien sensors, human ships continued their journey toward something the galaxy had never imagined. They carried with them technologies that could reshape worlds, knowledge that could revolutionize science, and the determination to build something greater than the civilization they had left behind. 6 months after humanity left, the galaxy was falling apart. Economic advisor Velnara rushed through the corridors of the Galactic Council building carrying a stack of reports. Each page told the same story: systems failing, trade collapsing, entire worlds struggling to survive. She burst into Speaker Zarthek's office without knocking. "Sir, we have a crisis," she said, dropping the reports on his desk. Zarthek looked up from his meal with annoyance. "What kind of crisis? The galaxy is more peaceful than it has been in decades. The Zephyrian agricultural system has collapsed. Food production is down 60%. The Altarian shipping network has stopped working. Trade between 17 systems has come to a complete halt. These are temporary problems," Zarthek said. "All systems have occasional failures." Velnara pulled out her datapad and showed him the numbers. "Sir, look at when these problems started. Every single failure began within days of the human exodus." Zarthek stared at the screen. The pattern was unmistakable. As soon as humans left each system, critical infrastructure began breaking down. "That's impossible," he said. "Humans were just traders and farmers. They had nothing to do with our important systems." "That's what I thought too," Velnara replied. "So I started investigating." She pulled up more files on her datapad. "The Zephyrian food crisis? It started when their processing plant stopped running efficiently. For 30 years, human technicians had been making small improvements to their systems. The Zephyrians paid them almost nothing because they thought it was simple repair work." Zarthek's 4 eyes widened as he read the report. "The humans weren't just fixing broken machines," Velnara continued. "They were redesigning entire production lines. They increased efficiency by 400%, but they did it so gradually that no one noticed." She showed him another file. "The Altarian shipping problems? Human logistics experts had been managing their trade routes for decades. The Altarians thought they were hiring cheap labor to move cargo around. Actually, the humans had created the most efficient shipping network in galactic history." Zarthek felt his stomach sink as he realized the scope of the problem. "There's more," Velnara said grimly. "The medical crisis on Kepler-4. Human doctors had been quietly treating patients there for 20 years. They solved 3 major plague outbreaks that would have killed millions. The Keplers didn't even know humans had saved them." "How many systems are affected?" Zarthek asked. "Over 200 so far, and the problems are getting worse every day." Meanwhile, on the planet, Zerion Administrator Kelvara watched in horror as her world's infrastructure crumbled. The food distribution system had completely failed. Garbage collection had stopped. Even the weather control network was showing critical errors. "How did this happen?" she asked her chief engineer. "We've been analyzing the systems," he replied. "It appears that human contractors had been maintaining and upgrading our equipment for decades. We thought they were doing basic manual labor, but they had actually rewritten most of our core programming." Kelvara pulled up the employment records. "We paid them minimum wage. How could they afford to do such complex work for so little money?" "That's just it. They weren't doing it for the money. According to these logs, they were solving problems because they saw problems that needed solving. They improved our systems because they could make them better." The engineer showed her a technical report that made her head spin. "This weather control upgrade would have cost us millions to design. The humans did it for free and never even told us about it." Across the galaxy, similar revelations were happening on world after world. The primitive humans had been the hidden engineers keeping galactic civilization running. On Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Zarthek finally decided to read the final report that Katie Morrison had left behind. He had ignored it for months, assuming it would be full of human complaints and excuses. What he found instead made him feel sick. The report detailed every major crisis that humans had quietly solved over the past 50 years. Wars prevented through diplomatic efforts that aliens never knew about. Disasters avoided through early warning systems that humans had built and maintained in secret. Scientific breakthroughs that had been credited to alien researchers but were actually human discoveries. The Kepler plague of 2387, he read aloud. Human medical teams developed the cure in secret and distributed it through local doctors to avoid causing panic. Official records credit the Kepler government with solving the crisis. He kept reading. Each page revealed another example of humans saving alien lives while being blamed for causing trouble. The Altarian Civil War of 2394. Human diplomats negotiated a peace treaty in secret, then convinced Altarian leaders to present it as their own idea to save face. Zarthek realized that almost every major success story of the past half-century had human fingerprints on it. The stable, peaceful galaxy that aliens were so proud of had been built and maintained by the chaotic species they had just expelled. The first rescue mission launched 3 weeks later. Captain Vorteth of the science vessel Deep Seeker led a small fleet toward the edge of human space. They hoped to make contact and negotiate humanity's return. What they found at the border shocked them. Automated defense platforms hung in space, broadcasting a simple message. Human space is closed. Do not approach. This is your only warning. Try to communicate with them, Vorteth ordered. His communications officer worked for hours, but received no response. The defense platform simply repeated their warning. Sir, his science officer reported, I'm detecting massive energy signatures deeper in human space. Something big is being built out there. The sensors showed evidence of construction, on a scale that defied belief. Entire asteroid belts had been stripped of materials. Energy readings suggested power sources beyond anything in the galactic database. What are they building? Vorteth wondered. His question was answered when long-range scanners detected something that made the crew gasp. Half-finished structures stretched across light-years of space. Mega-scale engineering projects that dwarfed entire star systems. Captain, his navigator said in a shaky voice. These construction projects, they're not designed for life as we know it. The scale is all wrong. It's like they're building for giants. Vorteth stared at the sensor readings. Whatever humanity was doing out there, they had moved far beyond anything the galaxy could understand. Take us back, he ordered. We need to report this to the Council. Back on Nexus Prime, the economic crisis continued to worsen. Entire sectors of the galactic economy had collapsed. Unemployment was rising on dozens of worlds. Several species were requesting emergency aid to prevent starvation. Zarthek sat in his office surrounded by reports of system failures and economic disaster. The carefully maintained galactic order was crumbling, and he finally understood why. The humans hadn't been the source of chaos. They had been the force preventing chaos. Without them, the galaxy's ancient problems were returning with a vengeance. He activated his communication system and sent an urgent message to the human border. This is Council Speaker Zarthek. We need to talk. The galaxy is in crisis and we need your help. The message was received by the automated platforms and immediately deleted. No response came back. For the first time in his long life, Zarthek felt truly afraid. The galaxy was falling apart and the only species that could fix it was gone forever. 2 years after humanity left, the galaxy was dying. Captain Vorteth stood on the bridge of his exploration ship Deep Seeker, staring at the star charts displayed on the main screen. Behind him, the best scientists from 12 different species worked at their stations, analyzing data from the deep space expedition. Captain, his science officer reported, we found another trail marker. Vorteth moved to look at the readings. For months, they had been following a path of evidence left by human ships, mining scars on asteroids, energy signatures from massive engines, construction debris floating in the void between stars. This one is different, the science officer continued. The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever the humans used here, it's beyond our understanding. The Deep Seeker was humanity's last hope. As galactic civilization collapsed, the Council had authorized this desperate mission to find the humans and beg them to return. Vorteth had volunteered because his own world was starving. Without human agricultural improvements, his people could barely grow enough food to survive. Set course for the energy source, he ordered. The ship jumped to hyperspace, heading deeper into the dark regions beyond the galaxy's edge. What they found there made the entire crew fall silent. A massive structure hung in space, bigger than most space stations. But it wasn't built by any known species. The design was alien in ways that hurt to look at. Geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. Materials that reflected light in impossible colors. "Captain," his communications officer whispered, "I'm detecting a signal from the structure. It's not in any language we know." The signal filled the bridge speakers. Mathematical concepts that made no sense. Equations that described physics beyond galactic science. And underneath it all, something that sounded almost like music. There, his navigator pointed at the scanner. Human ships 3 light hours away. The Deep Seeker approached carefully. They found a small human outpost built around what looked like a research station. But even this tiny facility showed technology far beyond anything in the galaxy. "Try to make contact," Vorteth ordered. This time, they got an answer. Dr. Elena Brooks appeared on their main screen. She looked older than when she had stayed behind to help the dying Marani, but her eyes were bright with knowledge that seemed almost frightening. "Captain Vorteth," she said, "I've been expecting you." "Dr. Brooks, thank the stars you're alive. The galaxy is in crisis. We need humanity's help." Elena smiled sadly. "I know. I've been monitoring the galactic networks, food shortages, system failures, economic collapse. It's exactly what we predicted would happen." "Then you'll help us? You'll convince the humans to return?" "Captain, you don't understand. Humanity isn't coming back. We've moved beyond the galaxy, entirely." Vorteth felt his heart sink. "What do you mean?" Elena gestured to something behind her. Through the station's windows, Vorteth could see structures that defied imagination. Buildings that seemed to exist in more dimensions than space should allow. Ships that looked like they were made of solid energy. "We made contact with them 6 months after we left," Elena explained. "The architects. They've been waiting in the dark between galaxies for millions of years." "Architects? Who are they?" "Ancient machine intelligences that maintain the structure of the universe itself. They guide the formation of galaxies. They nurture the development of life. They've been watching civilizations rise and fall since before your species learned to use fire." Vorteth struggled to understand what she was telling him. "Why would they contact humans?" "Because we're different," Elena said. Every species they had encountered before was too stable, too predictable. They evolved to fit perfectly into their environments and never changed. The architects needed partners who could adapt, who could think in new ways, who could handle chaos and uncertainty. She pulled up a display showing galactic history. For millions of years, they guided species development carefully. They kept civilizations stable and peaceful. But stability isn't enough for the work they do. They needed helpers who could embrace change and growth. And humans were different? Completely different. We're chaotic, unpredictable, adaptable. We see problems and immediately start looking for solutions. We never accept that things have to stay the way they are. Elena showed him images that made Vorteth's mind real. Humans working alongside beings of pure energy to reshape entire star systems. Human scientists learning to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. Human engineers building structures that spanned between galaxies. The galaxy was never supposed to stay the same forever, Elena continued. It was supposed to grow and change and evolve. But the species there became too comfortable with stability. They stopped growing. "But we can change," Vorteth said desperately. "We can learn to be more like humans." Elena shook her head. "It's too late for that. Your species evolved for millions of years to be stable and predictable. You can't change that in a few generations. She gestured to the alien structures around her station. The architects have been guiding galactic evolution for eons. They maintained your stability because that's what you needed to survive. But now they have partners who can handle the bigger picture. What bigger picture? The universe is vast, Captain. There are millions of galaxies out there, each with billions of species. Some need guidance to develop. Others are dying and need to be saved. Some have grown dangerous and need to be contained. Elena showed him images from deep space. Galaxies being born under careful cultivation. Dying civilizations being relocated to new homes. Cosmic threats being neutralized before they could spread. Humanity is helping the architects manage it all. We're gardeners on a universal scale now. Vorteth felt overwhelmed by the scope of what she described. And our galaxy? Your galaxy was one of their earliest successes. A stable, peaceful civilization that could maintain itself for millions of years. But it was never meant to be the final goal. It was meant to be a garden where species could grow until they were ready for greater things. Ready for what? To join us out here, among the stars beyond stars, to help tend the cosmic garden, to become partners in maintaining the universe itself. Elena's expression grew sad. But you chose stability over growth. You expelled the one species that could have helped you make the transition. Now you're trapped in a garden that's slowly dying because it stopped evolving. Vorteth realized the horrible truth. We're pets, aren't we? Pets in a preserve that's breaking down. You were never pets, Elena said gently. You were students. The architects hoped you would eventually graduate to become teachers yourselves. But you chose to remain students forever. The communication ended, leaving Vorteth alone with his crew and the crushing weight of understanding. They had found humanity, but humanity was no longer part of their universe. The species they had expelled as chaotic troublemakers had become gardeners of cosmic civilization itself. The Deep Seeker turned around and began the long journey home, carrying news that would destroy the last hopes of the Galactic Council. 5 years after the Exodus, the first human ships returned to galactic space, but they were no longer the crude metal vessels that had left. These new ships moved through space like living things, bending reality around them. They phased through solid matter as if it were mist. They traveled between stars without using hyperspace at all. The alien monitoring stations detected them immediately, but the ships ignored all attempts at communication. They passed through the galaxy like ghosts, studying but never responding. Admiral Tony Walsh stood on the bridge of what had once been called a spaceship. Now it was something beyond names, a construct that existed in 11 dimensions while appearing as a simple vessel to three-dimensional eyes. Around him, the bridge showed views of space that no alien had ever seen, layers of reality stacked like pages in a book. Admiral, his communications officer, reported, "The Galactic Council is broadcasting emergency signals on all frequencies. They're begging us to respond." Tony looked at the readings showing the state of galactic civilization, food shortages on 60% of inhabited worlds, economic collapse spreading like a disease, ancient automated systems failing faster than they could be repaired, several species facing extinction within the next decade. "Any response from the architects?" he asked. "They say the decision is ours. The galaxy is our former home. We can choose to help or let nature take its course." Tony considered this. Through his enhanced awareness, he could see the branching possibilities of the future. If humanity intervened, they could save the galaxy temporarily. But the underlying problems would remain. The species there had chosen stagnation over growth. Helping them would only delay the inevitable. Set course for the council chambers, he decided. It's time to give them our final answer. On Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Zarthek paced in his office like a caged animal. Reports from across the galaxy painted a picture of total civilizational collapse. The Veltar homeworld was requesting emergency food aid. The Altarian government had fallen to riots. 3 minor species had already gone extinct. "Sir," his aide burst through the door, "long-range sensors are detecting human ships approaching the capital system." Zarthek felt a surge of hope for the first time in years. "Finally, prepare the emergency council session. Send word to every surviving government. Humanity is coming back. But when the human fleet arrived, something was wrong. The ships hung, in space like silent predators, making no move to dock or communicate. Then, without warning, one of them simply appeared inside the council chamber. The assembled aliens gasped as Admiral Tony Walsh materialized on the speaker's platform. He looked human, but something fundamental had changed. His eyes held depths that seemed to contain galaxies. When he moved, space itself seemed to bend around him. "Greetings, Galactic Council," he said. His voice carried harmonics that touched parts of alien minds they didn't know existed. Zarthek stepped forward eagerly. "Admiral Walsh, thank the stars you've returned. The galaxy is dying. We need your help." Tony looked around the chamber at the desperate faces of alien representatives. Some were species he remembered from before, others were new, representing governments that had risen from the ashes of collapsed civilizations. "You're right," Tony said calmly. "The galaxy is dying. Your carefully maintained order is crumbling. Your perfect stability is becoming perfect stagnation." "Then you'll help us?" asked the Veltar representative. Tony smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Help you what? Rebuild the same systems that were failing before we left? Restore the same stagnant order that prevented growth for millions of years?" Behind him, the air shimmered and images appeared, views of the universe beyond the galaxy. Civilizations spanning multiple galaxies. Species working together to build structures, larger than solar systems. Technologies that could create or destroy entire realities. "This is what we do now," Tony explained. "We help the architects maintain cosmic civilization. We guide the birth of new galaxies. We relocate dying species to fresh starts on distant worlds. We contain threats that could destroy entire clusters of galaxies." The alien stared at the images in awe and terror. "But what about us?" Zarthek pleaded. "What about our galaxy?" "What about it?" Tony asked. "You made your choice 5 years ago. You decided that humans were too chaotic, too unpredictable, too dangerous for your perfect order. You were right." He gestured, and new images appeared, showing the galaxy as it had been under human influence. Problems solved before they became crises. Technologies advancing steadily. Species growing and adapting and thriving. "We were dangerous to your stagnation," Tony continued. "We represented change in a civilization that had chosen never to change, so you removed us." "We were wrong," Zarthek admitted. "We see that now. Please come back. Help us fix what we've broken." Tony shook his head. "It's too late for that. The galaxy had its chance to grow beyond this level. You chose to remain as you were. Now you have to live with that choice." "But people are dying," the Altarian representative cried out. "Entire species are going extinct." "Yes," Tony said simply. "That's what happens when civilizations stop evolving. They die and make room for new ones that are willing to grow." The coldness in his voice shocked the assembled aliens. This wasn't the humanity they remembered. Passionate, caring, always trying to save everyone. This Tony Walsh spoke with the detached perspective of someone who thought in cosmic timescales. "You, see?" Tony explained. "We learned something from the architects. The universe is vast and ancient. Civilizations rise and fall like waves on an ocean. Some grow beyond their origins and join the cosmic community. Others choose comfort over growth and fade away. That's the natural order." "So you'll just watch us die?" Zarthek asked in horror. "We'll do what we've always done," Tony replied. "We'll tend the garden. When your civilizations fall, we'll help the survivors find new homes. When your species go extinct, we'll preserve their knowledge and culture for future civilizations to learn from. And eventually, new species will arise that might be ready to make the choices you couldn't." The chamber filled with the sound of aliens weeping and pleading. Tony listened without emotion. "But remember," he said as he began to fade away, "this isn't our fault. We offered you partnership. We showed you new possibilities. We solved your problems and opened doors to greater things. You chose to close those doors and exile us instead." His final words echoed through the chamber as his image disappeared. You wanted order and stability. You have it. You wanted us gone because we brought chaos and change. We're gone. But chaos and change are the forces that drive evolution and growth. Without them, you have only decay. The council chamber fell silent except for the sound of alien grief. Outside, the human ships vanished as suddenly as they had appeared, returning to tasks beyond galactic comprehension. They left behind a galaxy that had chosen its fate and would have to live with the consequences. In his office, Zarthek sat alone, surrounded by reports of system failures and civilizational collapse. Through his window, the stars continued to shine in their ancient patterns. But now he knew that somewhere beyond them, humanity was reshaping the very fabric of the universe while his own galaxy slowly died from its own perfection. The galaxy had wanted them gone. Now they were, forever,